Okay, all right. So, good morning, one and all, and I welcome to this 196th webinar. I'm Amit, and a marketing manager at Manage CIA. I'm proud to say that since from the last 3.5 years, Manage CIA is running this unique Saturday webinar series for the budding entrepreneurs and for the agripreneurs. Manage CIA is one of the Agribusiness Incubation Center, which is hosted by the National Institute of Agriculture Extension Management at Hyderabad. Till the date, our incubator has mentored more than 847 entrepreneurs and incubated close to 425 startups from the various focus areas in the agriculture and allied domains. As today's webinar topic is funding for the agri-startups, strategies and best practices. And to discuss this very much important topic, because funding is something which is very important for the any startup, and to discuss what are the different strategies that anyone can follow, what are the best practices they can do, where they can attract more investors and get the grants. And for which we have joined with us Mr. Yasin and Linesh. I welcome both the speakers, and I request my colleague Usha to introduce our first speaker, Mr. Linesh Singh.
Thank you, Amit. Thank you so much. Good morning, all. Welcome to our 196 webinar. Today, we have two dynamic young professionals who have been in the funding of agri-startups. So, to start with the introduction of first speaker, here we have Mr. Linesh Singh. He is the co-founder and chief executive officer of Startups Exchange. He is an active angel investor and a strategic partner, growing up world-class companies in not just India, but also in USA and UAE also. And his domain expertise include fintech, payment solutions, stock exchanges, venture capital, and private equity space. He primarily worked in product-based companies like MCX, IEX, and DSX, BSE Bahrain stock exchanges, not just Indian stocks. He has worked with foreign stock exchanges also. He is an alumni of IIM Ahmedabad with a graduation in computer science and mechanical engineering. His first job as a Class 2 officer, Government of India taught him the business administration and people management. So on. He has grown into a chief business officer, chief people officer, mastering the art of community building, etc. So with this short introduction, I welcome you, Mr. Linesh. Handing over to you. Thank you.
Excited to be part of this session today, and I think the kind of work that you as an institution is right now into, I think we should definitely appreciate and promote this.
Linesh, I think there is a glitch in your voice. What I'll suggest, you can turn off your video for some time, and after some time during the questions, you can turn it on. Linesh, can you hear me?
I hope everybody understands why this sector is pretty important and why, irrespective of whatever ups and downs in the market today, agriculture has been, I think, for the last 300 to 400 years, the backbone of the Indian economy. And today we are discussing this, and you selected me for. Let me know if we can start.
Yes, Linesh, we can start.
All right. So I think let us first look as an income to, let's say, 150.
Mr. Linesh, very often voice is going away. It is not continuous. Mr. Linesh, Amit, take care. Amit.
Am I audible and visible? The presentation.
Linesh, we can hear you now, but in between your voice is cracking actually. So that's why I turn off your video. Now it's going.
It is cracking.
Yeah, now it's going. Now it's working
Okay.
now fine.
All right. So when you say Indian economy, typically 58% of the income in India even after independence, it comes from agriculture. So agriculture is a key contributor to the Indian economy. And there are various sources of income, and a lot of jobs are generated by agriculture. Whether you say import export, whether we say internal consumption, whether we talk about raw material that goes to FMCG companies, or whether we talk about startups that are trying to solve the problem of this unorganized sector. So 58% is still a good number. I think it's the largest contributor to the Indian economy. And if we look at why this sector is prevalent for a lot of time. So before going to startups, we should actually look at the source of raw, or the customers who typically are farmers. So is the government, so there are two funding schemes. One is for organic farming. Again, these are old numbers. We couldn't get the new numbers. But even if you look at 10 years ago, it was almost 22.5 lakh hectares of land was under organic farming. That's for farmers. So if farmers get benefit, obviously there are startups and companies into FMCG, they would get benefits, because ultimately the source is more important. Which we got, 9 lakh crore farmers have received 20,000 crores. So if you are a farmer, yes, the government of India is supporting. If you compare the Indian economy with other countries, we are way ahead when it comes to welfare schemes and the number of people who get this support. Obviously, we still need more funds to deploy, and still lakh crore, I think, is still a small number. We need to extend this. But if you look at the way it has, what happens to businesses? So this is what happens. So apart from this, it's almost 6,000 crore. That is the amount that the government has set aside in the 2023 budget. This year budget, I think this month we are getting it. So obviously this is the latest one which we have. And this is for supporting startups. Infrastructure, which is huge. You must have seen the roads, the warehouses, a lot of startups. I'll come to it in the end, like they are trying to build this. And then obviously you also have shipping and ports, apart from the UPI and NPCI and other initiatives. There are various agriculture funds are deployed through incubation centers. And obviously as of are eligible based on the process, which obviously takes some time. But then being an accelerator recognized by Government of India, you can definitely deploy a lot of funds to startups every year. So that's again something which the Government of India is trying to support. I'll come to it later on. Coming to the storage, to have a public-private partnership by setting up warehouses where you get 50% subsidy from the Government of India if you're trying to set up a warehouse, and the rest could be your money. So obviously storage is more important to manage the supply chain, and I think that will help a lot of startups to have the right timely distribution across India. Now, if I look at the market size, 24 billion is the market size as per E&Y report. And if you as a founder is looking at this presentation, it's not a new market. It's, I think, now almost 10 to 15 years gone by looking at this market, because these are the startups who have raised money, and they are still going strong. You might definitely see an IPO also from these startups coming up. So the product market fit is something which has already been in place. If you look at this 20, 25 years down the line, this was not the scenario. So with this kind of an ecosystem which is building up, the 24 billion market share is a huge opportunity. I would say it is the biggest opportunity for entrepreneur to look into this sector. And coming to segmentation. So if you're looking at this market, you might be looking at what exactly is your product market fit. So to be very honest, there are four sources where typically the business happens. One is obviously the consumption, where you talk about food, crops, cereals. So you might talk about rice, wheat, millets, and all. The second is obviously the oil market, which is huge. You have a lot of market when it comes to different types of oils. Again, 30 years down the line, this might go to even, I think, multiple mixtures of oil. Even today, we have seen that there is a mix of 2 to 3 seeds which give you an oil, and people consume that as well. That has a different market now. So oil seeds, yes, it's a huge market. Not a You can start with small as well. The third option is fruits, because of geography, climate change, and looking at hilly areas and even plateaus. So fruits, again, a lot of exports also happen from India to abroad.
Linesh, I think we lost you for. Hello. Linesh, can you hear me?
In onions and potatoes and tomatoes and all products, which is again short term. It's not a long term thing. But then, yes, vegetable market is huge, and
Linesh, can you hear me?
coming to again.
Linesh, sorry to interrupt you. What I'll do, I'll request my colleague Saurabh to load the PPT so that you will get better bandwidth, because your voice is cracking, and I'll suggest you that you be at one position so that we can hear you steadily. Is it fine?
Somebody can make a call actually.
Yeah.
Yes, sir, I'm calling him on it.
Saurabh,
Okay.
you can load the PPT and come on the same slide so that he'll
So
get
should I
better.
stop? Should I
Yes,
stop presentation?
yes, you stop it. We'll come to the
Yeah.
same slide. I will load it from our end so that you'll get better bandwidth. Just hold on 1 second. Saurabh, please load the PPT. Come to the third slide.
Yeah, sure.
It's
It's fine, but then I'm using the mobile network. So maybe because of rains, it might be an issue.
yeah.
Yeah.
Saurabh, can you rotate it, the PDF? Yeah. Saurabh, just go to the third slide. Linesh, can you hear me? Are you
Yes,
there?
yes, I can hear you.
Yes. So you are on the third slide.
So am I audible now? Is it better? The
Yeah, it's
bandwidth?
better now. Yeah, it's better now. We lost you
Okay.
for last 30 seconds actually on the same slide. You were on the next slide.
Okay.
Saurabh, next slide. Yeah.
So do you want me to again talk about the market size?
A little bit next slide. Market segmentation.
Yeah, got it. So when you say you are a startup and you want to get into the agri-tech space, um, apart from two basic criterias, one is the pre-harvest and one is the post-harvest. When I say pre-harvest, it's more about agri-tech inputs. So you might be helping farmers to increase productivity by giving them some inputs in terms of soil, in terms of the kind of quality of fertilizers they are using, and the seeds and all. So that is pre-harvest. Then again, in pre-harvest, you have various crops. So broadly, you have 4 categories, like you have rice, wheat, millets, and all. So these are again seasonal. In one season, you might get maybe in a year you might get 2 or max 3, but typically these are 2. When you say oil seeds, again, in oil seeds, it could be pre-harvest and post-harvest. But most of the businesses which I have seen in oil seeds, they are post-harvest. So once you get the seeds, you have various options of converting that into business. It could be looking at cold press oils, or looking at a mix of refined oils. You can look at import and export options as well when it comes to oil seeds, because you can store them for a long time. Coming to fruits, again, perishable items, but a lot of hybrid varieties are available apart from organic fruits as well. So under fruits also you have various types of fruits. Especially we have seen mangoes in the summer season. India has a lot of variety of mangoes across states. I think more than 70 varieties of mangoes are there, and that again goes into import export apart from consumption in India. And obviously you also have food processing options of converting fruits into juices, which again are classified into preservatives and non-preservatives and all. So fruits is again an amazing business if you look at that kind of a thing. And the last option is obviously the vegetable part of it. The items are perishable, but then certain items like potato, onion, garlic, everybody knows what is the rate and how it fluctuates. And you have in India now an option to trade them. Apart from the government mandis, you can also give them to other people and sell them out. So you have a parallel ecosystem which is being set up now for selling vegetables and fruits, apart from the crops which come there. And when we talk about warehousing, logistics, and supply chain, I think for the last 10, 15 years, we all have seen roads and railways and connectivity and subsidies in warehouses coming up. Now that has helped these startups, which are, if you go to the next slide, the market size. Now we have already seen these startups raising a lot of money. And when you raise money, it means foreign investors and the Indian funds. I'm now talking about the private funds. And these startups, they have raised a lot of money from private funds or private investors, institutional investors and all. So that shows an acknowledgement that there are investors who feel these startups can give a good amount of return in the upcoming years. So as an entrepreneur, if you are trying to solve a problem in agri-tech, most of the times when I try to evaluate startups, we have seen they try to do a lot of things. If you try to understand and analyze each and every startup, initially they start with 1 or 2 expertise where they might be beating even the companies which are funded or bigger companies. And slowly they diversify into a bigger model. If you look at their heart, now they are huge because they are at a level where they have grown in the last years, and it requires a lot of money every stage to capture market and to obviously connect the dots which are gaps. So being an entrepreneur, if you are looking at this market, agriculture market, I would definitely suggest you to study these startups who are already funded, what kind of problem they are trying to solve, what is the headcount when it comes to number of employees they have employed, the amount of ecosystem partners. Because see, being an entrepreneur in agri-tech, you'll require government support. You'll also require a lot of support from incubation centers, especially the FPOs and the government PSUs, and the integration of your product with these ecosystems. So that is the reason I would suggest you to look at incubation centers as a support, especially if you're at a very early stage, and grow your venture. Apart from this, the last part is onboarding advisors. See, an advisor can actually reduce a lot of time for you to progress, especially when it comes to growth potential. And if you are looking at private funds, which is obviously going to happen in years to come, your amount of growth in a limited span of time defines you as a good startup, as a good deal for investments. So if you have onboarded good advisors who can do a good go to market for you, who can connect you to the problems and solutions by analyzing their thoughts and opinions, because they come through the industry and they have been into this space for a long time. So they look at it from a different perspective, which can really help you to, one, reduce a lot of errors and mistakes. So if you do less errors and mistakes, the amount of money that you burn, that also comes down. Plus there is a faster growth rate as compared to other startups in the market. So advisors and incubators obviously play a good role apart from the money that you're trying to raise. Believe me, raising money 20, 25 years back was very difficult. Today, if you ask me, the ecosystem is pretty matured. There is a good combination of private and government funds along with schemes, which can really help you if you really knock the right door at the right time. I think I had some questions. Let me look at it in the chat.
Maybe that we will take at the end for the both the
Got it.
speakers. They may put it. Yeah.
So I think I'm done. If anything is there, let me know. Now, I think if I go to the questions, what
Linesh,
should I?
Linesh,
Mr. Linesh,
maybe we'll take up these
uh,
questions
se-
after the second speaker session.
Okay.
But to conclude your session, I would like to say that you mainly talked about the various schemes which are initiated by the government of India to support the agri and agri-allied businesses. You mainly mentioned about the market segmentation in the broader perspective way, that where the opportunities are there for the starters and where they can start their own businesses. And the main important point which you mentioned about the different case studies of the startups, that how over the time these startups has been changed their business model and they are now trying to survive into the market. And the another point you mentioned, that is the startups should look into the government support and the incubation centers. I would like to say here that like us manage incubation center, we do a lot of incubation programs that to giving support from under RKVY-RAFTAAR program for funding of 5 lakhs to 25 lakh rupees, or maybe the pre-incubation program like the Saturday webinar series. And we try to connect our startups and those who are coming to the manage to connect with the different stakeholders of the government institutions. So that way they will get help to, for the networking as well as for the validation point of view. So yeah, like way many like manage apart from the our incubation centers are helping to the budding entrepreneurs. So with this, we will say thank you to the Linesh, and I would request all the participants kindly put your questions into chat box that we will take up at the end of the second speaker session. And I request my colleague Usha to introduce our second speaker. Usha, you on mute. You are on mute.
yeah. Thank you, Amit. Today, to start with our second speaker, here we have Mr. Yasin. He spearheads the funding desk at NRCEL, which is a startup incubator hosted by IIM Bangalore. And he played a very pivotal role in revamping and establishing the funding desk focus on assisting startups in securing capital through equity, debt, and other innovative financing avenues. Also, he worked as a director earlier at Fund Enable, where he dedicated to 8 startup founders in securing capital rounds. With over more than 2,000 subscribers, Fund Enable facilitated 200 crore of funding for many tech ventures. With this brief introduction, I welcome you, Mr. Yasin. Handing over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Usha. Thanks for your kind introduction. Let me start sharing my screen first.
Yeah, it's loading now.
Hope people can see my screen.
Yes,
Yeah.
good to go.
So thanks to the first speaker, Linesh, who has set the context broadly on like how the startups are, how the ecosystem is, what the contribution to the economy, etc. So I will little take it slightly in a different node on a fast forward basis to speak about very specifically when we look at building any of the ventures. The one foremost thing which haunts us is that how do we manage our finances? both from the personal perspective and as well as from the organizational perspective, because it is not something which you are running the organization, you're also taking responsibility of the people who are working with you. Ideally, maybe your initial team of 3 people, 10 people, 15 people, 50 people as you grow. So that's where the funding and finance comes into your play, and it becomes very crucial for you to scale your venture. So why do we need funding? So many of the people say that I'm doing an venture. So why do I need funding? One foremost thing is that when you start your venture, you have an idea. You never knew what is the solution. So you figured out a problem statement which you are working on. You are not aware of the solution. So you thought of a process or a system or a way where you can either develop a solution, you develop a product or a service which can solve the solution. From this perspective, you develop a model to test and try whether it's working or not, which comes at a cost. For that, you need money. You pump in as a founder, you put in initial capital to an extent. Beyond that, it's not possible, right? You also need the external support. Then there is like, once you create this prototype, then you translate if the prototype is working. If the sample model is really solving the problem, it's workable, then you completely convert into a full-fledged working product. So again, product development. To develop this product, you need a right set of the team. Today I might start a venture, I might be the founder, I can start working, I might doing 10 different things as a founder. As I grow, as I progress in my venture, I need a team who can take responsibility of certain verticals, who can take responsibility and assist me in building this. So that's where you need team. When we speak about the team, I can always say that first 10 members of the organization either can build the organization or can break the organization. So that way you need right set of the people with right set of experience. Even you need certain freshers who can take up things. Then you also need working capital. Working capital is the most important thing, and then the most deadliest thing which startups suffer with. You need not have 10 crores in your bank account. To run your business, you need maybe 15 20 lakhs in your bank account for a period of time by the time your invoices is cleared. So you need working capital to manage your daily financial requirements. Then comes your like legal and consulting support. When we start any of the ventures, there are certain legal things which gets involved. There are also certain consultation services which we take to clear off our legal things. When we speak about legal things, there are many things, like there are like secretarial things, there are compliance things, there are also certain trademarks, IPs which we think of applying, etc. So all these fall under this bucket. And then we also need raw materials, and also we need certain machinery or certain softwares or maybe certain equipments to process and then build our product or the service. So that's where you need X amount of raw material, certain machines, etc. Then there are like certain licenses and certifications. When we work in agri food tech segment, typically we need FISSI license. There are also certain other licenses which might come into picture as you develop your product basis where the customer you are serving, what segments you fall in. You might be a agri venture which is catering into pharma segment. Then again there is like a different licensing structure comes into the picture. You need to do huge lot of marketing and sales. When I speak about marketing, there is a old saying, not old saying, like there's a marketing saying rather I say, where we say जो दिखता है वो बिकता है. So you need to create a great visibility for your product so that people can understand your product, learn about your product and try to opt it out. And then you need a strong sales team who can go out, hit the roads, explain the people about the product or the service, and then convert them into the customers. Then if you have to run the organization, you need a simple office space where you sit work. Initially it will be taken care by the support system or the ecosystem of startups available in India, but as you move forward you also need this. Typically these are like 9 pointers which I am highlighting. Why do you need funding? So beyond that, there are also other things which come into the picture as per the segment you are operating in, as per the sector you are operating in, the stage you are in the business. Then like when we speak about funding happens at different stages. And then typically as the business grows, there is a business growth path. There are also different stages of funding. The first stage is the problem solution fitment stage. This is the stage where either you or you along with your co-founder are working, At this point of the time, most of the expense what comes is your personal expense. So now you have left your job or you have just graduated from the college and you started working. There is also peer pressure, you have a family, etc. to run with. So, and then simultaneously, not only managing the family, you also need to look at certain expenditure which comes to you to start this business. Maybe registration of the company, maybe starting buying a laptop, or maybe like buying a couple of software licenses to work with, maybe buying some amount of raw material to test the product. So this is the stage where you try to find a problem, how to work, where to work. Then there's like a product development stage. Once you identify the problem, once you think of a solution to it, now you develop the solution. So this is the stage, this is the second stage where you can look out for funding. There is third stage. So the people who come in each of these stages is different, that I will be discussing as we move forward. The second stage is the product development stage, where you really develop a product which solves the problem. This is the stage, second stage. Third stage where you can raise capital is customer validation stage. So where you have developed a product, take that product to the target customers, give them the product, ask them whether it's really solving their problem or not. Is there anything better that they are expecting from the solution that you are offering? You check out whether what is the acceptance of your solution with the target customer. This is the third stage where you can raise capital. So once you have this in place, then you hit the market really with a strong go to market strategy, do actual sales where your actual revenue starts hitting your bank account. This is the fourth stage where you raise capital. The fifth stage is the inorganic growth stage, where you raise capital. Inorganic growth stage is more on like you focus more on getting more and more customers, paying customers for your product or the service. Now, why do we need funding at different stages? Stage one, as I mentioned, that you are in the initial stage, you and your co-founder, maybe like initial 2, 3 people team working, you need to take care of their expenses. Second, say product development stage. When you work on the product development stage, you need certain raw materials, certain resources, so maybe some lab, maybe some land, etc. So that's where you come up with a requirement for capital. Third stage is the customer validation stage. When you hit the market, if you go and ask some customer that take this solution, this solves your problem, no one is going to buy it. So you need to do some level of marketing to it. You need to build some level of confidence in the customer, because when you say that I'm a startup, I'm solving a problem, I don't have a competitor, it's completely a vague answer. So there is some solution which is available in the market which customers are using. Now you need to offer your solution to those customers who are already using a solution which is available in the market, and then get them the feedback. So there is a cost associated to it, because you might have 20 products to be manufactured, take those 20 products to the customer, give them constant relationship with them, taking feedback every week, maybe fortnight, etc. So this is there where the your cost comes. So once your customer validation is done, when you need to go hit the market and really do sales, you need a strong sales team, you need a huge marketing expenditure, then you need to have a strong supply of your products. So for which you need to have a manufacturing setup maybe, or a contract manufacturing things, where the raw material cost, etc. These all things come in your scale up stage. So fifth stage is the like in fourth stage you capture X amount of the market. Now, beyond that market, you need to expand your business. When I speak about the market, let's assume there are like 10,000 customers in India. You have acquired 1,000 customers who are using your product. Now, to grow your business, you need more customers to be converted into your customers, because the 9,000 customers are scattered with your competitors. You need to just bring them back from the competitor and start using your product. That's where your huge customer acquisition cost comes into the picture. When I speak about customer acquisition cost, it can be from um, your customer acquisition cost can be from the digital marketing side, it can be from the sales team side, any of the operations. So this is the inorganic stage where you look at growing your business, maybe 10 times, 20 times with the current structure. Who gives you money? So initially, like stage one, typically self-funding is the option which is available, because this is a stage where you are figuring out, where you are validating your problem statement, working on basic things. This is a stage where none of the investors would actually come and invest money. Why is that? At this point of time, none of them is confident how your business works. None of them know how is your working model is, what type of solution you are building, whether that solution will be accepted by the customer or not. So this is the very gray part of the startup where none of them would be very much interested. There are certain exceptional cases as well where you can raise capital. So most of the time, self-funding works in typical stage one. Then there is something called as the incubators and access. These are like the vulnerable people who come at very early stage, take huge amount of bet on the startups and startup founders, though they know that this solution can turn up into a good product, the solution cannot be into a good product, still they bet on you, just believing in the system and then they believing in the efforts that you put in. So incubators and accelerators. When we speak about these incubators and accelerators support you in two different ways. Typically, incubators support you through government schemes which are available with them. Beyond that, they also partner with certain corporates to align with the vision of the corporates to develop the solution. The solutions which are developed by the startups can be aligned with the requirement of the corporates. To run this entire segment, corporates would be happy to give you some financial support initially to kickstart or to scale your business. So that's where these incubators come into the picture. Accelerators, there are again two different types of accelerators. One is the accelerator where they build huge amount of capacity in the startup founder in a very short period of time and then connect them to the right set of investors. Investors are the external people who just do investment in the business, or they come up with X amount of investment from their side as well. So there are like two different types of accelerators. These are the people who take next level of risk after the startup founders. Then there are grants. Again, grants can be of various types. When we speak about grants, most of the government grants are processed through incubators, but there are also certain grants which these corporates or the foundations roll out directly. When they roll out directly, you need to apply to them. How do you get this information? One, you need to scout for this information on the Google, being in touch with the ecosystem players to understand. And incubators can source you a lot of information on this because these incubators and the incubator ecosystem people are always in touch with different segment of ecosystem players who keep sharing the information what's happening in the market. Then there is something called as crowdfunding. So crowdfunding, most of the time, it's not much accepted in India at this point of time. Yes, it's growing in India. Crowdfunding is something uh, you list your project on a platform where people like me or someone else who can put in money at very small ticket size. When I speak about very small ticket size, it can start with as low as 10 rupees and it can go as high as possible according to my risk taking capability as an investor. So when you list this project, there is a back validation or the due diligence which is done by the platform before listing your project on their website. Post that, they open it for the investment. Once they put the target of like we are looking to raise maybe 10 lakh rupees for this project, once 10 lakh rupees is subscribed, once they receive this 10 lakh rupees, this platform takes X amount of percentage as the service fees and rest amount is given to the startup founder to work on the idea. Then there is something called as like angel investors and angel networks. Angel investors and angel networks, see, there is a slight difference between angel investor and angel network. Angel investor is an individual who invests money and takes X amount of share of the company, X amount percentage of ownership of the company. Angel network is a platform who has X amount of angel investors on their platform. On behalf of these angel investors, angel network platform will do the evaluation of the startup and then they open up the option for their pool of investors to invest in money. When we speak about this, most of the time angel investors invest money only through known connects, and then they also come with X amount of expertise in particular segment. If you are an agri startup, you need to reach out to a right person who has an expertise in agriculture, who has interest in it, who is looking to invest in. Angel networks on the other hand, so these angel network platform people will take care of this entire evaluation, open up the option for their pool of investors to invest in, and they also support you with X amount of services. When I speak about X amount of services, it might be in raising next round of capital, it might be in certain restructuring of your business slightly. They also help you in product launch, diversification of your business to an extent. Most of the time, it is on and it is typically like a mentorship platform which they also offer. It is zero cost, but they charge you X amount of fees when you raise capital from their platform. Then there is something called as like a micro venture capital funds. Micro venture capital funds are similar to angel networks, but there is in micro venture capital funds, it is not the someone individual who sits on your cap table or who takes the ownership on the company. Typically, there is an organization which has raised X amount of capital from their LPs. So when we speak about venture capital funds, there is a structure, something like limited partner, general partner, then there is like a partner, principal, investment managers, etc. So these limited partners are the people who have who made huge amount of money, who has given this money to the general partner, believing that he has X amount of expertise to invest in X segment of startups. So when I speak about maybe agriculture, maybe deep tech, maybe AI and VR, etc. So with this expertise, they come and they do investments in small ticket sizes in micro venture capital funds. Post micro venture capital funds, the venture capital funds come into the picture. So now, if you can ask me like why angel networks or angel investors micro. So typically, if you look at like product validation stage, that is where your angel investors and angel networks come into the picture. So stage 4, which is like scale up stage, where you really hit the market, that's where your micro venture capital funds and venture capital funds come into the picture. Then there is like a private equity funds. These are like a private offices which like BlackRock, etc., who do investments in the private markets, private equity markets. These people come at a very later stage where they are more concerned on the growth of the venture, scaling of the venture. Now these angel networks, micro venture capital funds, venture capital funds also help you with certain services to grow your business, raising next round of capital. Private equity funds, moreover, their focus is that we put in money, you give us returns and grow your venture. So they will not be involving themselves most of the times in helping you, but it's the most of the time they help with a large check sizes of maybe like $30 million, $40 million. Typically amounts like $30 million, 30 into 3 8, so somewhere around 25 26 crores, etc. So that's how so $30 million is like 240 crores, etc. So that's how the funding ecosystem in India at this point of time is. So before this, there is also X amount of support being offered by the government. So how do we get money from the government? So you need to, most of the times the money through the government comes through the incubators. You need to be in touch with. When we speak about the multiple schemes, I have picked up typical 6 schemes to speak with. The first term is like a Startup India Seed Fund scheme. When we speak about Startup India Seed Fund scheme, it speaks that any startup working something related to tech. Now, when I speak about how is it relevant to agriculture, you are doing agriculture, but you have some tech component which you have incorporated or developed for the agriculture, then you are a right fit for Startup India Seed Fund scheme. Under Startup India Seed Fund scheme, you have two divisions. One is grant, one is a typically CCD, that is like compulsory convertible debenture through which you can raise money. Grants, again, it's see, when you apply for this, you have an option to choose whether you need a grant or you need money as an a debenture. And then when you apply, so you need to go as a startup founder, you need to go to the website of Startup India, create your own login credentials for your venture, then apply with. When you apply, you can apply for 3 incubators at a point of time. Once you apply for 3 incubators, incubator has 45 days once they receive the application either to accept or reject the application. Once they accept the application, what they do is that they will put to the internal seed fund committee of their own. Again, this internal seed fund committee consists of the all the external people. None of the incubator team will be part of it. These people come from different expertise of investing, product development, etc. And then they evaluate your venture and they decide whether they should fund you or not. When they speak about fund you or not, even they take call, even though you apply for grant, they take a call whether you fit for a grant or a CCD. In case if you get selected, if you are okay, you can go ahead with the rest of the processes. Now there is also a layer. Once if 3 of the incubators which you apply reject you, you cannot reapply for next 90 days. You need to wait for 90 days. Post 90 days of timeline, again you can reapply with 3 new incubators, not the past 3 which you have applied with. Then there is something called as a BIRAC scheme. BIRAC is like a biotechnology research organization of which is a part of government of India. It's an autonomous body. They give you like a BIRAC grant of 50 lakh rupees. So this is typically a grant. There is no dilution of the ownership of the company in the organization. But if you fall in the idea stage to prototype stage, yes, you can apply for this. This grant opens up every year. You need to be in touch with. You need to apply directly through the website of BIRAC. Once you apply, you get 50 lakh rupees in case if you get selected. Once you get selected, you need to get incubated at a BIRAC supported incubator, and then you have timeline of 18 months to develop a product. Otherwise there is no hard stop, something like you need to pay back money, but there is like a lot of justification has to be given why there is a delay, etc. When we speak about BIRAC, BIRAC is more on the biotechnology, but like they coin it as a broader terms like life sciences, and they also include certain parts of agriculture into it. Then there is something called as Nidhi Seed Support System, purely on the tech side of the businesses which can avail this. But being an agriculture organization, if you're developing some solution which has a technology component used in the agriculture, you can apply for Nidhi Seed Support System. Nidhi Seed Support System is purely invested against equity. So again, the incubators invest maximum. The provision the government has given is to invest 1 crore rupees, but again it is up to the investment seed committee to decide what amount to be invested in each of the startups. Here they take some part of ownership, so incubator takes some part of the ownership in the organization and they give you money. Then there is something called as Nidhi Prayas. Nidhi Prayas is similar to Nidhi Seed Support System, but the ticket size is very small, where it goes up to 20 lakh rupees. Then there is something called as NABARD. NABARD also runs certain schemes. I don't say typically they fund you, they run certain schemes through which you can get some POC, or you can get some leeway on certain working capital, etc., to scale your venture. Like one of my portfolio ventures, Deep Flow Technologies, which works on soil health. So they really got 5 lakhs or 6 lakh rupees of a grant from NABARD. Beyond that, they also got a POC from NABARD. So that's how NABARD works. Then there is something called as RKVY-RAFTAAR, which even Manage has. So they give you like idea stage support, maximum of up to 20 lakh rupees, basis again internal selection. So these are like typical broad 6 schemes by government of India through incubators, which you need to be in touch with and apply with. See, all these schemes have never been started something ki, "Okay, yaar, will give money to the startups." Every time the focus is that how do we promote entrepreneurship, how do we self-sustain Indian economy with Indian products, and then how do we create more employment. This has been the vision, irrespective of the ruling parties. It's the vision of the Indian government. So that's where these schemes have been coined. So please try to make best out of these schemes. When I also speak about like best out of the schemes, there are different stages. If you are a pre-revenue startup, if you are not making revenue, try to run your venture, try to balance your venture with as much as grant amount possible, because you are not diluting your any of the equity component. That's like ideally you're not diluting your ownership of the company, because once you start diluting ownership of the company, there are certain reporting formats which will come into the picture, and you keep reporting to the investors on timely basis. MIS has to be sent. There is also some external pressure which being created by the founder, not only turn to the organization to the successful path, also certain questions being posed by these investors. So if you are a pre-revenue company, most of the times focus to get grants, then get support from these schemes available. And there are also a couple of other schemes which I am not discussing in detail in the interest of time. So you can also focus on those things. If you are revenue generating company, if you have stabilized your revenue, maybe like you are making 5 lakh rupees every month consistently for last 6 months, then I would recommend you not to go with grants. Typically go with the equity capital, because these investors don't just bring in money, they also bring their expertise, they also open up their connections to grow your business, and they also give you certain insights, how do you structure on the hiring part, building your sales team part, etc. So that's where you need to be cautious where, what, how, who to be raised. So that is something from my side. So would be happy to take question answers and go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much, Yasin. I say that this is actually the total whole summary of and the guidance for the all the startups who are looking to get their funding for their startups. And you mainly talked about why the funding is needed, and you cover up from the point of POC to till the scale up stage. So, and each stage definitely the requirement of the funding and the capital is changes. You explained it very well. It's actually a total roadmap for the startups where they can need the funding. You talked about these different stages of the startups. At what stage the startups need the funding, and of course there are different government schemes you covered from the POC level, that is from the ideation stages. Which government schemes are there, which will help startups to convert their ideas into the reality. Along with that, you mentioned about a few schemes. I'll just let me clear one thing, that RKVY will support up to 25 lakh rupees funding, and yes, 5 lakhs for the seed stage funding. And the one very point of the eligibility, that the RKVY-RAFTAAR should be the first grant. So it's advised to every agripreneur that you first take the benefit of the RKVY-RAFTAAR scheme, which is run by the manage along with us. There are 28 incubation centers run the same scheme, where you have n number of opportunities to get the funding for your startups. And I can see a lot of questions are there in the chat box also. So maybe that we will take it further. But I request once again participants, if you have any questions, you may raise the hands to ask questions directly to the speaker.
So Amit,
So
just before we take up
yeah,
questions, one just point I wanted to add. As
yeah.
Amit has mentioned very clearly, when you apply for RKVY-RAFTAAR, you should not be availing any of the grants from the Government of India previously. Similarly, when you avail Startup India Seed Fund, there is a clause. You should not be availing more than 10 lakh rupees of a government grant or any equity support before you apply for Startup India. So you need to be cautious where to apply it. See, every scheme has its own advantages and disadvantages. So you need to be little cautious. If you fall on the tech side, I would recommend go with SISF. If you don't fall on the tech side, you are more on the product side, which is typically agri product, you go for RKVY-RAFTAAR. So that is like something which as a founder we need to be cautious, and then incubators have enough amount of skill to support you in finalizing which scheme you need to opt for. Just be in touch. Never think that he is working there, it doesn't mean that he is a servant. They are also the employees of the organization who comes with X amount of expertise, experience, and then they also studied certain they have been into this ecosystem for a longer period of time. They can help you with in the initial stages. Maybe growth stage you have X amount of experience, but initial stages they are the right people who can help you with.
Indeed, very true, Yasin. Because mostly the schemes has their own eligibility criteria. So I would recommend to all the participants who are looking for the schemes, they may go to the Startup India program, and there is a separate section called schemes, where you can find out all the documents related to the schemes, what kind of funds they are offered for the startups. And one more point that somebody's asked in the chat box, that where they can find out the schemes and funds. So there is a separate section which is available on the Startup India scheme, that is the challenges, where the rolling basis applications are called out for the startups. Even like us manage, we do a lot of promotion on social media on our website, where you can regularly check updates to get the funding support. So with this forum is open now for the question and answer. We have very short time, but I'll try to cover up maximum questions. There is a first question is to the lineage coming from the Archon, that what is your perspective on the absence of the any unicorn in the agri-tech space? What are the primary challenges or constraints for these? As many of the startups mentioning that your presentations are currently facing the difficulties. What are the thoughts or the current states of agri startups? So mainly is talking about why we have very less number of unicorns in agri space. Linesh, what is your take on that?
See, I think pretty valid question, because if you look at the unicorn model itself, it started with fintech. So everybody knows that it started with fintech, then e-commerce, and if you compare fintech and e-commerce with agri-tech or agriculture, obviously the market size looks good, but then we haven't seen unicorns. See, the answer lies in what exactly is a unicorn. If you look at it, I think maybe Dehat is a startup which is close. It might be. That's what people think. To become a unicorn, the entire ecosystem must be ready. If you say today fintech, you have a lot of APIs which are ready. You have regulators who have their own policies. You have a lot of things which are updated. Everybody knows the zero brokerage model now of Zerodha, which was again questioned, and we have new regulations. So if you say, is it the startup problem? I would say no. Is it the investor problem? I would say that also no. Or is it the government or founders problem? No. The answer is see, to become unicorn in agri-tech, I think the ecosystem still requires another 5 to 10 years, where it will come to a level where things would be super fast. When things are super fast, you'll definitely see more companies becoming profitable, more companies being able to do the economies of scale, and a lot of people putting in money into the Indian market. But if you say today, if you start as a founder, even for you to come to a level of looking at a pre-IPO kind of a thing, it will take at least 10 years.
Yeah.
So I would suggest, if you're starting, there is a chance you might be a company which might be a unicorn, might be. If you don't start, you look out for a job. The job cycle today is not 15 years or 30 years. My father had a 33 years of service in Central Railways. Can you do a 33-year of service in private sector today? The answer is there are a lot of question marks. So if you look at the cycle of making money, I would suggest an entrepreneur, he will have difficulties in the first 2 3 years, but with the way success happens, there's no looking back. So I still say that yes, unicorns will come in, and a lot of them will come in agri-tech. Believe me,
Got it.
it's not going to collapse like edtech
Right,
the way
Linesh.
it happened.
So we got the your point that the gestation time for getting that level for the agri and agri-tech startup will be the more. Yasin, you want to add something for this same question?
See, whatever Linesh has mentioned is absolutely right from the one angle that our ecosystem or something is not still have enough regularities in place to grow. On the other hand, when you look at from typical investor perspective, investors look at like a shorter return of investment. When you look at asset light companies, so there is something called as a software company. You just need to have your laptop. You can sit anywhere across the globe and start working, but typically not with agriculture. You have some asset to it, which comes at a X amount of cost to be invested to build in it, then start working on it, and then the return of investment is huge. So if the return on investment for any of the investors at any point of the stage in asset light company, that is a tech company, maybe like 5 to 6 years, but similar on the other hand for agri-tech company, it is like 10 to 15 years. No one is ready to wait. Everyone wants to make easy money. That's where the option of reaching out to investor gets limited for agri-tech startups. That's where you have lower investments, and then it's something which goes on. And just I wanted to never think of unicorn. What is unicorn? Tell me something. You just have $1 billion valuation, you're a unicorn. So Byju's is dying. Now government of Karnataka has given order to Byju's Ravidan first play 4.4 crores of salaries which is pending to the employees. Never
Yeah.
dream of building a unicorn. I would rather suggest being into this ecosystem of typical startup for 10 years, being a startup founding member for 2 startups, taking exit and then starting my working with IIM Bangalore now. Think of building a sustainable business. When I speak about sustainable business, think of your revenue should take care of entire organizational cost. Then you think of diversifying with investors' money. Never
Yeah, I
think
think
I need money just for my paying salaries. Never go
I
with that.
think this is a really important takeaway from your the part that to make your business sustainable rather than dreaming about the
So what,
unicorn.
what makes unicorn? If you're profitable, that's a good business. Make huge profits.
Yeah, so we quickly go to the next question as many questions are there and time was very short. There is a one question coming from the Dilip Kumar that where they can study more about these startups or any sources are available that Linesh and you discuss about a lot of case studies. So any central where they have the access to these startup case studies.
See, to be specific, to study about startup cases, there are like so many startup media platforms available today. Whether it might be Your Story, Inc 42, Venture Intelligence. So you just need to just go on Google, type it, you get X amount of articles. Just you need to think of where the valid source is. That is something. and then you can subscribe to these newsletters, etc. Like large incubators like typically manage, which is one of the predominant in the agri space. You people keep releasing certain newsletters yearly. I am
Yeah,
Bangalore keeps releasing certain newsletters. These large corporates like McKinsey, etc., specifically release startup reports every year. So these where you get lot of case studies.
right,
You need to
right. So
just be
Dilip,
cautious and then understanding in it, making
yeah,
sense
so
out of
Dilip,
the information.
yeah, to add into the Yasin's point that we do have separate idea startup bank where we are talking about all the startup details, their contact details, and even the startup success story is also available on our website. So as such, centralized no website you can see, but many incubation centers they have published their stories and their publications are available on the website. So there you can get it. So I'm just quickly go to the next participant raise the hand. Vaishali, I'm just going to unmute you. Vaishali, can you hear me? Vaishali, or maybe the Gaurav, I'm just going to unmute both of you, has raised the hand. Gaurav, can you hear me? Vaishali or Gaurav, are you there?
Yes, I'm there.
Yeah,
Can
ma'am,
you
please
hear me?
quickly. Yes.
I had actually couple of questions. One was that most of the time when we have spoken and have checked out the schemes or grants available by government or by Startup India, they mostly are tech based. We are a company where we are a product based company. And we are struggling to get those kind of grants where people would understand, you also need to develop a post harvest. Everything cannot be just funded at a pre harvest stage. So how do we find out, and how do we make a pitch which is which makes us more interesting to get a funding? So that was one question of mine. And second one was to Yasin. How do I apply for NSRCL?
Madam, to apply for NSRCL, I will offer very simple. We have 14 different programs going on every year. Visit our website. Every program has its own eligibility criteria. Please check if the application is not open. Still, you can express your interest. Our team will reach out to you and then they will take it forward. It's a very simple process. To answer your first question, today the word technology has been used randomly. I would say technology doesn't mean a software. Technology means there is some amount of research goes into which has been built. Have you seen this Agnikul Cosmos, which has launched a rocket very recently? Many of them say कि अरे वो तो product company है. अरे there is a huge amount of technology has been gone into it. There has been like TRL 8 stage where they launched their first trial. 8 stages of iteration. There's a huge technology development has happened in the back end. So that's where. So don't consider this technology term as a loose term. It has been which is being used in the market, but just understand what technology. It might be a manufacturing technology, it might be a product technology, it might be a software technology. Anything can fit in. But to be very specific, when you apply for Startup India Seed Fund, you need to check what is the expertise that the particular incubator has while you applying, because every incubator has their own expertise and they try to invest in the companies which fall under their expertise. That is something which you need to figure out. To
Yeah.
deep dive more on this, I think we need to get on a separate call. It would be possible to take multiple questions to go
Right,
deep.
right. Yasin,
Linesh,
that's
if you
what.
have anything, please go ahead. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I'm taking most of the questions. Linesh, if you have anything to add, please go ahead.
Uh, no, I think you pretty much answered her incubation question. But then, if you say you are looking at raising from private investors, I normally use the word concept sales. So, when you say concept sales, the product doesn't exist, and you're trying to sell an idea to someone. A lot of people ask me, what is Startup Exchange? Are you a listing platform? Are you a Bombay Stock Exchange? I say, no, nothing like that. So what do you do typically on an exchange? You do buy and sell. So why do you do buy and sell on a listed platform? Because BSE, NSE, the regulators, they give you the right information. That's why you can buy and sell shares. But when you go in a real world, you're a founder and there is an investor. Is there a platform where you just click and you get the money? There's nothing like that. And same thing, Startup Exchange is not like that. So what we do, we simply invite the decision makers who write checks in a VIP room, which is a roundtable format. We only invite 100 people and we invite 10 to 15 founders. So 10 to 15 founders and almost 50, 60 funds. Imagine. in a closed room, and you spend 6 hours with them. Now that is exactly where you don't have a PPT, you don't have a cohort, nothing, and you just need to do concept sales. Why are you doing this as a business? How will you make money? And how do they get an exit? Three simple questions. No talking on technology or processes and other stuff. It's only about money, numbers, and how does it work for him, because there are other people also. So I think it's more about concept sales. That's what I say. That's why when you use the word sales, always talk about numbers, not technology. So Apple doesn't sell technology. Apple sells you customer experience. That's why people upgrade from 13 to 15, which doesn't make sense. I don't use an Apple iPhone, but then people buy that. Similarly, Tesla doesn't sell cars. Uber doesn't have cars. So unless you are able to do that concept sales to someone who feels you might be in the business for next 5 to 10 years, the private investor will not give you money. And one side, when I say definitely the government is supporting, but then it takes time. Don't be impatient that 3 months mein funding aayega, 6 months mein aayega. See, government has a lot of welfare schemes. It's not just Startup India scheme or funding schemes. So they have to deploy capital everywhere. Similarly, a fund also. They might be evaluating 10 startups, but they might deploy fund to 1 or 2 companies only. That's why the strength of your concept sales come in. That do they want to give the first to you or someone else? That's it.
Very valid point, Linesh, because we also had the same experience with the startups. There many times what happens, they think that the grants are like one of the major source where they can run their startups. But of course, at the end, you have to run your startup and you have to find out the different verticals from where you can manage the cash and you can run your businesses. So indeed, although many questions are there, but due to time constraints, I'm unable to take all the questions. But I request all the participants, their speakers details already we have put in the chat box, so you may raise to them. Definitely Yasin and Dinesh will try to solve your queries. And if you are looking any support from the manager side also, you can always reach to us through our website, through email IDs and our social media pages. Do not forget to follow, where the regular updates are coming, getting some new programs or the funding related opportunities. And I have one announcement for the budding entrepreneurs, that if you are looking to know about the startup ecosystem and how you can start your own business, this is what the ABCD of the business, the pre-incubation program. Just applications are open and live on our website. Don't forget to register that 20 days online training program, where you will connect with such a brilliant experts, and you can have the mentoring sessions as well personally about your own ideas. So don't forget to register for this and apply to this program. Along with that, I request everybody to kindly submit the feedback about the today's webinar and register for our upcoming webinars, where we can invite such a speakers and in different topics. So with this announcement, I would like to say thank you, Yasin and Linesh, for such a wonderful session, and the entire Mani CIA team and Director Saravanan sir for allowing us to hosting the today's webinar. With this note, I would just say thank you all the participants to as well. Thank you all.
Thank you, Asin and Linesh. It is good to hear you today. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. Pleasure is ours. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thanks for having.